Well, everyone hates Justin Trudeau except for his small cult following inside Canada and the people he literally subsidizes to lie for him, so everyone in the mainstream media, or at least 90% of them. Domestically, he is despised. His polling numbers are tanking, his unfavorability rating is underwater. And internationally, we all know India hates him. There's 1.5 billion people, and he's now added Israel to the list among, the Philippines and Saudi Arabia and every country that he's managed to alienate with his nonsense. But we have to talk about the fact that Justin Trudeau also hates a lot of people. Mr. Kind Progressive, he's been vicious to anyone politically to the right of him on anything, but he also despises Christians. He let their churches be burned with impunity. We've gone on the Hindus thing, but we're going to focus on his hatred of Israel and the Jewish people. Justin Trudeau is a hardcore ideological leftist. He's an intersectionality, critical race theory, critical this theory, all of that, and all of that nonsense sums up to hate the Jews under the oppressor and oppressed framework of taking the Israel-Palestine conflict, the hundreds of years there, and just applying a modern university Western lens to it. It's what we like to do. So he's come out on the Jews' bad spectrum. Now he's been forced to say he supports Israel publicly, but he does not support Israel privately. The Jewish community, when I say the Jewish community, I mean the leaders of the major Jewish organizations have been fooled by his words of support because they are stupid, and they are not smart enough to realize that his foreign policy department, like Melanie Joly, has been messaging anti-Israel stuff the entire way. They still have the hospital lie posted. Melanie Joly, Canada's foreign minister, still lies about the hospital. So why does Justin Trudeau do this? And what's the absurdity behind this? Well, the obvious answer is he's trying to mine for either votes or money. He knows he's a dead man walking, and by playing and playing nice to the hardcore Islamists and radical leftists, he'll be able to maintain his career as an international speaker. He'll be able to go on Al Jazeera in 2026 and lecture the world on diversity, equity, and inclusion and all that type of stuff. But why was he forced to delete a tweet accusing Israel of violating international law? And you could say, no, he didn't actually do it, but it's a tacit implication. When you say that Israel must obey international law and people are dying, you're implying that they are not. This is obscene. Now, when it comes to international law and war crimes, when people talk about Israel, everyone loses their mind. Now, there's some naive people who just don't understand what they're saying, and there's some malicious people trying to drive this. We're not really sure where Justin Trudeau is. He's probably a mixture of naive and malicious here. So in terms of war crimes, it seems that everyone is under the impression that it is international law or a war crime. There's something when it comes to Israel that if I perceive an army to be stronger than another army, that first army must fight with one hand tied behind its back. If not, that's a violation of international law. This is essentially most of the main claims. That is not true. Not true in the slightest. So you can either say, okay, Hamas, which is a listed terrorist organization in Canada, when they attacked on October 7th, if you want to say, well, no, Hamas isn't a terrorist organization, they do social work because Iran gives them money to build schools to teach jihad or, more jihad, fine, math. 1 jihad plus 2 jihad equals 3 jihads. There's that. And you can say, no, they're a state actor. Fine, then October 7th is an act of war. And this is interstate warfare. Like, either way you slice it, Israel has the right to respond. Now, the indiscriminate bombing, the bombing is not indiscriminate. There's been 10,000 bombs dropped on Gaza in this month. What are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah. That's the same amount of artillery launched by Egypt in its first initial assault on Israel in 1973. Okay? The amount of artillery and bombs dropped in the Israel-Hamas war will likely not equal one single day of exchange of fire between Russia and Ukraine, by a factor whatever. Now, Israel also gives warning before they bomb those places. So you're going to say, oh, attacks on civilians, they're a war crime. Listen, no one wants civilians to die. All life is precious. But what Israel is doing in Gaza is not a war crime. If Hamas uses human shields, that makes them legitimate military targets. And you're not going to want to hear this, but it's true. If there's tunnels underneath a building, that's a legitimate military target. If there are Hamas fighters inside a building, that's a legitimate military target. Now, you could say, if they're using human shields, does Israel have a right to do something? Yes. Under international law, here, if you want to use human shields, if there are human shields, and if the military attacking the base with human shields does all they need to do to make it legal under international law, is do something to mitigate civilian casualties. So giving them a warning. If Israel gives any warning to evacuate, like they did weeks ago in northern Gaza, then they've taken measures to reduce civilian casualties and therefore no violations of international law. So nothing Israel's doing if they're in Gaza is a violation of international law. Nothing. It's all legal under international law. Now people say, oh, you can't fight a war with weapons. They're using, like, what are you talking about? They're using guns. Yes. They're using tanks. Yes. They're using bombs. Yes. This is called war. Wars are fought with weapons. What do you want from us? Now, Justin Trudeau knows all of this. He knows the international law surrounding it. He knows all of this. His supporters know all this. But instead, they choose to ignore this to fan the flames of anti-Semitism to rile up their base. This is what they do. This war is so absurd, where you have Israel fighting in Gaza. And once they take out Hamas and clear a sector, that then allows the civilians to evacuate to somewhere safe. Israel is literally fighting for the civilians of Gaza and being maligned in the media and the international leftist establishment for doing so. Hamas is shooting them on the road. The civilians fleeing are being shot by Hamas. We have this on video. We have testimonies of Palestinians saying this. That's a war crime. Israel's trying to defend these civilians fleeing. But we still lecture Israel international law. Listen, if you want to talk about international law and war crimes, fine. But if you have no lectures for Hamas, which is committing multiple war crimes a day, they are launching rockets from civilian areas with civilians near them. That's a war crime. They're then launching them at civilian areas, like there's another rocket barrage in Tel Aviv today. Double war crime. So, Justin Trudeau, all the international left, Ireland, Hazma Yousaf, if you want to talk about war crimes, fine. But if you're going to ignore the vast amount of war crimes committed by Hamas, you're going to ignore the fact that the hostages are still taken, that Israel has the right to recover 200 hostages from its people, like none of this is war crimes. You're just lying. And I don't believe any of your calls for a ceasefire, because Hamas isn't calling for a ceasefire. They want more. They're still firing. They don't want a ceasefire. Israel doesn't want a ceasefire. It's just the international community that wants a ceasefire to help Hamas. Justin Trudeau knows all of this. Justin Trudeau has better intelligence on this than I do. Yet, he chooses to be malicious and anti-Semitic by targeting Israel and not Hamas. Listen, we all see through it. It's time to drop the illusions. It's time to say that Justin Trudeau's words are empty. Jews are being attacked on the street with impunity. There's another bomb threat against a Jewish high school as we speak. Where is Justin Trudeau? And more importantly, where's the leadership in the Jewish community who, for months, have been praising Justin Trudeau for saying, you know what, don't kill Jews. Yay! But people trying to kill Jews, he's fine with that. And his foreign policy department's like, yeah, killing Jews is fine. Where are you guys? Where are you guys? You're weak, pathetic cowards, and you need to resign. You need to get out of the way. But more importantly, the Jewish community, especially the progressives and the lefties, you need to wake up. You were wrong. You were wrong to attack us right-wing Jews who are trying to tell you the truth about what Hamas is capable of, what the PA is capable of, who they are, and what Justin Trudeau is, what Jagmeet Singh is. You chose to ignore us. You chose to stick your head in the sand and pretend this magical thinking that if we just give in to our enemies, if we just prostrate ourselves to the international left, they will love us. They do not. You were wrong. And you continue to be wrong. And if you're not willing to leave the Liberal Party over this, you're part of the problem. You're part of the Hamas team.